Peace family, it's Bakari Lumumba, the progenitor of Lumumba Speaks, and I'm back once again with another video where we're discussing the importance of understanding African American politics. Now, I know many of you would argue, why is there an importance on specifying or focusing on African American politics? It's a great question. I want to start off by telling you why. One, African Americans are the only group of people who were involuntarily brought to America. Second, we are the only group of people in which we suffered the indignities of chattel enslavement and we were denied our humanity. And many social scientists would argue that we're still fighting for our humanity to this day. So with that being said, we're going to jump right in. I think the number one issue we have to understand when we talk about understanding African American politics, it comes from the wisdom of our great ancestor, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., in which he stated in a conversation with Reverend Jesse Jackson that part of politics is understanding the distribution of resources. That means who gets what, when, where, and how. Right? And so we have to understand that when we're dealing with politics, we have to focus on substantial political benefits rather than substantive political benefits. And I'm going to give some examples. One, of course, would be the historic election of Barack Obama, the 44th president of the United States of America. Many people were very excited with his presidency. We even saw people talking about his swag and how cool he was. But his presidency, which was rather symbolic in terms of Black people seeing a Black face in a high place, did not bring about any tangible benefits. For example, under the Obama administration, we saw a rise in white nationalist hate groups. We saw a rise in vigilante violence against African Americans at a rate that I would argue actually rivaled the first nadir, in which there was a decline in race relations and African Americans lost all of their constitutional rights after Reconstruction. And with that being said, we even saw this with the inauguration of President Joseph Biden as the 46th president of the United States, in which many people came out and were actually gleefully boasting about Michelle Obama's outfit, right? They talked about how great Kamala Harris, the vice president, looked, right? And so I think that's very important that as a community, we're not politically inept or politically retarded, that we're politically mature, and that we should not care about what a politician looks like, what fashion designer they're wearing, how they wear their hair. What we should focus on is what policies are they providing for our community to benefit our community and empower our community. And so when we talk about substantial political benefits, I think we have to focus on issues such as reparations, right? That's been in the news a lot. I would agree that African Americans are owed reparations. We have to talk about how about ending qualified immunity. How about focusing on creating an executive order? We know Joe Biden signed a number of executive orders during his first days in office. Or how about an executive order in which any killing of an unarmed citizen is a federal crime? Right? White folk like mandatory minimums. How about creating a mandatory minimum sentence of 25 years to life for a police officer who kills an unarmed citizen, right? Executive order, mandatory minimums, that's something that we should advocate for in terms of creating significant, substantial policies that benefit our community. Number two, of course, I think a lot of people were excited when we saw in the news that Stacey Abrams was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. And I think that's laudable, right? I think that when we look at the fact that she was able to organize that many people to register to vote, I think it's something that should be applauded, right? We know that it takes a large logistical network, communications, and commitment to make that happen. But I think there's an underlying current there that isn't being talked about. We know when we look at the work of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., he would see the Nobel Peace Prize specifically for his advocacy of nonviolence, or what he calls satyagraha, in terms of political resistance to, of course, the indignities that African Americans were facing in the South, but also throughout the United States, particularly Jim Crow and the lack of, and the fight for suffrage. However, many people applauded him because of being nonviolent, but I believe that part of the issue was the ideal of being nonviolent in face of white terrorism was something that the white supremacists always wanted, right? So it wasn't like for the white supremacists this was anything new. This is what they always were advocating. And I think that when we look at the work of Dr. Claude Anderson, for instance, he talks about this concept of meritorious manumission, in which white people typically are rewarded, put out in the front, and we're told to praise those who actually do something that benefits the white power structure. So how that relates to Stacey Abrams is, when we focus on the work she did, and I actually read her book, so the criticism I'm giving is based on her own words. She says that her goal is to build power for the Democratic Party, not for Black people. So when I think of a Black person registering Black people to vote, I think of the work that Stokely Carmichael did in Lowndes County, Alabama in the mid-60s, and was the black folk were living in Lowndes County in the middle of the Black Belt and were literally living in a state of domestic terrorism. And as a result, he was able to get black people registered to vote, and he didn't get them registered to vote under the Democratic Party or under the Republican Party, but he actually created the first Black Panther Party in Lowndes County, Alabama, that, of course, Bobby Seale and Huey Newton used to create in Oakland. But he got black folks to register to vote, and then they created their own political party and ran for office, right? So as a result, they were able to run for office, win these seats with their own political party, and then prevent these type of insurrections or issues that they were facing from the white terrorist network in Lowndes County from affecting them anymore. So for me, I think if a black person should really be praised, it should be doing something specifically to empower black people, not simply for the Democratic Party, because what she did was help get Joe Biden elected. And we have yet to see how that's going to turn out for us. And so I think that's something that we have to be very mindful of. Secondly, we know that Frederick Douglass stated that power concedes nothing without a demand. And I remember the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan once stated that, but what can you demand when you're coming from a constituency that looks like it's lost its testicular fortitude, right? And so I was watching MSNBC one day, and for those of you who are familiar with some of the cable news networks, we know the Fox News is extremely right-leaning. CNN tends to posit itself as being a centrist network, and MSNBC completely aligns with the left or the far left, as some people would argue. And so the sister was on there, and she talked about, as black women, they demanded that Joe Biden pick a black woman as the VP candidate. They demanded this. But then she's turned around and stated that now that he's picked a black woman, we just hope she does the right thing. And to me, that was completely asinine. If you have the power to demand he picks a particular person, then you have the power to demand that he creates and provides tangible benefits and of course, laws and executive orders that benefit your community. So the concept of we could demand a person but not demand a policy, I think was completely asinine to me. So just once again, just want to reinforce the fact that when we're talking about the importance of African American politics, we want to focus on substance, not symbolism, right? We want to focus on tangible political attributes that we can gain or derive from an administration. We shouldn't have a concern in terms of a person's swag, how handsome or beautiful they are, what type of outfits or they wear, what their hair looks like, right? We have to focus on substance, not symbolism, and understand that oftentimes when black people are doing some good, we have to focus on, is the black person doing something good for a white power structure, or are they doing good for black people specifically? So once again, just want to state that. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. I'm out. Peace.